Limerick yachtsman Pat Lawless was 70 years of age when he achieved his life's ambition and sailed around the world single-handed. And that was 14 years ago, and his triumph followed 2 failed attempts. But the story of Pat's voyages may never become public because the manuscript that he kept has gone missing. His son Dan is now trying to track down the missing manuscript, and he joins us now on the line. Hiya, Dan.
Hello, how are you?
Thanks for joining us today. Can you tell us a little bit about your dad, Pat?
Certainly. I suppose the interesting thing about him, as a young guy, as a boy, he lived in Dalkey for quite a while, in Vico Terrace, I think. Even then, I remember my grandmother, his mother, saying he was always out on the ocean or on the Irish Sea, on boats, punts or whatever. Then they moved to Limerick, where his mum was from. And even then he was in Limerick Boat Club, and they had a sailing boat. He used to sail there at 16 years of age. He just always gravitated to water. It was a natural thing for him to do.
And when did the ambitions to go around the world start, or was that always an ambition for him?
He always sailed, even as a young lad. You know, he was talking about buying a former lifeboat and putting a mast on it and sailing on that. And then he built his own boat, and he was always on the water. So one evening, he'd sailed the Atlantic in the 80s and back. And one evening he said to my mother, "I'd like to take you for a drink to O'Driscoll's, the local pub in Corvally in Limerick." And he said, "I have something to tell you or ask you." And she said, "You can take me for the drink, but I know what you're going to say. You want to sail around the world." So she said, "You've always wanted to do it, and you have my blessings. Go for it."
It's amazing how particularly wives, and I know these, have this kind of sixth sense that of what the question's going to be. But he's probably dropping hints all the way along.
Sure, I suppose, you know, she said to him at one stage, "You have a boat for every day of the week and there isn't a Hoover in the house," you know. It was part of life.
What did he do for a living?
He, as a young guy, I think 14 years of age or 12 years of age, I think back then, he went in to Gnaza cabinet making place in Rocha Street in Limerick, and then himself and his brother Peter opened a furniture factory on the Dock Road, and they had that well into the late 70s. Lawless Brothers was the name, but yeah.
So I'm sure people down there will remember.
They would, yeah.
He had 2 failed attempts, I suppose, before he actually managed to do it 14 years ago. Tell us about those.
He did. He set off on the first one, and he left the Shannon Estuary, and he was in the Atlantic, obviously, but the Shannon Marine Rescue Service were very good to us. They used to kind of keep an eye on him. He had lots of satellite equipment and all of that. But they couldn't find him, and he wasn't in communication with anybody. He was actually presumed missing or dead. And at one stage, we got a phone call from a Norwegian freighter 1,200 miles west of Cape Town. He had been in a storm and his rudder broke, so he literally couldn't steer the boat. So he was just floating in the big pond, so to speak. And he was picked up by the freighter because he would have died if this ship didn't pick him up. So they literally threw one lifeline, a rope to him, and he put his passport and his credit card in his back pocket, and they hauled him up the side of this ship, which was swaying in the Atlantic. And they said to him, "We cannot come back for you. You catch it, and this is your one chance." So they brought him to London, and he flew home. So he was very lucky to be picked up because he wasn't on shipping routes within reason. And the following year, he went out again in the summer and set down to the South Atlantic, and he was in a dreadful storm and wound up off the coast of Brazil. So he actually pulled into a huge wood manufacturing factory on the coast there. So that was the second attempt, was failed as well. And then anyone would do it, try it once, but he tried it a third time. And on the third time, fair play, he did succeed and fulfilled his dream.
And how long did it take him to do it?
He actually took it 3 years because, he sailed again down around by Cape Town, and he spent a while there. And then, when he got to Western Australia in Hobart, he had to overwinter there because you couldn't set out on that. So he had a couple of months there. And I suppose at his age, that wasn't a bad thing.
And did he come home at that stage? Or
No. He stayed on the boat. He lived on that boat for 3 years, a 30-foot boat, yeah.
And I'm sure you've come across people who are friends with him as well.
Oh yeah, he still got Christmas cards last Christmas from people from all over the world. But even then, when he was doing Hobart to Tasmania, that stretch, it's quite a notorious stretch of water. He hit, I remember him telling me, the worst weather in 75 years on that stretch of water. And on that stretch, there was one story he used to tell that the weather, the elements literally lifted the 30-foot boat from the sea. In midair, it turned completely upside down and massed back into the ocean first, and then it righted itself under the water. You know, incredible, what I'll call harrowing stories, and yet he also had beautiful stories of whales, sunsets, the equator, gorgeous moments as well.
And that was 14 years ago. Now, he died last month. That's very sad. What happened to him?
He, in the nicest sense of the word, and I think it's an uplifting story insofar as he always said he didn't want to linger. He went to bed and he went to sleep, and in his sleep he died. And his GP, Paul, said, Dan, he didn't even know he was dying. He just died in his sleep. And that was, we're sad and we're lonely, but I have to say we're happy for him and for ourselves.
Sure, there's a lot worse ways to go.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Tell me about the manuscript that's missing.
He wrote the book in Kilkee over 3 months after he came back, and he brought with him his ship's log, which would detail everything from food to weather to experiences to thoughts to emotions, and even talking to us, even though we weren't there. He used to write things down, And I suppose it was a way of keeping himself in his company, in his own company. And so he wrote the book, and he had it typed in Kilkee by an office service. So at the time, he sent it to a couple of publishers who said, no, thank you very much. We might be an island nation, but we're not hugely a maritime nation. And so they sent it back. And it has been read by some people, that typed copy. Some of his friends have read it. But now we have a publisher, and we can't find the manuscript.
When he successfully did the voyage in 1996, he got a bit of publicity, and I think he was on with Shay Byrne and Jerry Ryan.
He was indeed, yeah.
That's great. Well, we have a clip of Shay Byrne with your dad.
And after the hernia, where did you have the broken rib, Pat?
I had to.
It sounds like a litany of medical problems.
The first broken rib I got was 5 days before I got into Cape Town in South Africa.
Yes, what you fell, did you? Or so?
Yeah, I was thrown.
Yes.
I was thrown by a rogue wave, onto the winch. I got another broken rib in Panama. Well, hey, Gabe, that's par for the course.
Of course, I know, but I'm just laughing here at the things that have happened to you. Where did you meet Albert Reynolds? Oh, that was in Perth.
Yeah, I met him in the Irish Club.
In Perth,
yeah.
Yes.
Actually, yeah.
And you met a Maori called Fred Ryan, is that right?
Jeez, I met funny people, yeah.
Yes.
In New Zealand, in Bluff, on the South Island, I met many nice people, but I met this guy and he said to me, my name is Fred Ryan. When I met him first, he said, my people came from County Mara in Ireland. County Mara. I laughed and I said, Connemara is it?
Your dad sounded like a man who knew his own mind.
I would think very much so, from a couple of reasons. Like he was a very loving sort of guy, and he, all of us, we had a great relationship with him, which is wonderful for us. But he actually had a great relationship with everybody. He was quite a character, quite a charmer, but still a very gentle soul, if you know what I mean.
I do.
And a lot of Limerick people said to me, God, Dan, we've lost a real Limerick character. He always went to the market, strolled around, sat outside cafes, had a cigarette, a coffee. He just loved talking to people, and yes, he had the great ability to be on his own and very much so enjoy his own company, as in when he was at sea.
Had you seen him before he passed away?
Oh, God, yeah. We have a flower shop in Limerick. He was calling to us all the time. I think a week and a half before he died, he was sailing with my brother with Peter down in Valencia. Then he was in Lahinch with my sister Helen and the kids, and he was at the market having breakfast with my brother Jim on Saturday. So really, we all got a chunk out of him at the end, if you know what I mean. Yeah,
it's like
which is nice.
It's like a textbook way to go, really, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
See everybody and die in your sleep. What do you want people to do? Who do you think might have this manuscript or be able to help you find it?
My assumption, and I hope we're right, because if we can find this manuscript, well, then the book is published. If somebody has read it or given it to somebody, that I assume it's sitting under someone's telly or on a bookshelf or stacked away somewhere with lots of other books, and somebody has just forgotten that they've read it. And if we could jog a few memories and get people thinking and talking in the hope that someone will say, oh yeah, I read that, or I lent it to somebody, and that they'll give us a buzz, or you a buzz, or whoever, and let us know that they have it. And then we can hand it over to Gary McMahon in Limerick, who'll publish it.
Okay, so anybody who knew Pat Lawless, who was given a manuscript by him, a manuscript for a book, if they could get in touch, they can get in touch with us here, and that'll make it nice and easy for them.
That'd be great.
Our number is 1850 715 900. They can text 51551, or they can email Mooney at rte.ie, and we'll get Jarlath to put up those details on the website.
That'd be brilliant.
And maybe if you have some success or something happens between all of us, we might be able to organise something. You come back and let us know.
If there's anything, I'll be straight back to you, Shay, that's for sure.
Dan, it's great to talk to you.
You're very kind. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Good luck to you now. Bye-bye. Cheers.